Let's talk about the metric LTV in your e-commerce business and the considerations for how it's calculated, how it's used, and what you can do to influence customer lifetime value. Let's jump in. Okay, so we're going to be talking about LTV, or a lot of times people will call it CLTV for customer lifetime value. And essentially, what this is a measure of the value that has been contributed to your business from an individual customer. So it is a measure at an individual customer level. And when people throw out aggregate numbers, it is an aggregation across all of your different customers, usually an average. So you're going to look at the average customer lifetime value across a year time span, for example. And we could say like, okay, our 365 LTV averaged across all of our customers is X, right? And so that's kind of what people use to determine what their customer lifetime value is. So if we were to plot this out of what the customer lifetime value looks like for a person, we might have a graph that looks something like this. And every time that a customer orders, their lifetime value is going to increase. So this might be order 1, and here we have orders. And here we have value across this axis here. So we have orders and we have value. And so the first order is going to go up to a certain level. Maybe this is a value of $50. And then every subsequent order is going to obviously start from there, and it's going to go up. So then if they have another order, this is order number 2. So now their customer value is up here. Let's say this was another 50 orders. And so now their customer lifetime value is sitting pretty at a pretty $100 up here for customer lifetime value. However, this isn't quite a measure of the contribution that this person has had for the business, because with every order, there are expenses associated with it. There's also expenses with acquiring the customer the very first time. So perhaps a better view of what this graph would look like, and if we space this out a little bit better, so we have our orders over here, orders or time as time goes on, and then we have the value plotted right here. The first thing is going to be a cost associated with acquiring this customer. So every single customer is going to have a customer acquisition cost associated with them, which we will get into how to measure this in other videos here with the metrics, going over e-commerce metrics. So this CAC, let's say, there's a CAC, a customer acquisition cost. Let's say our CAC is let's say it's $75. Okay, so our CAC is $75, and then in their first order, they placed an order for $60. So their first order is $60. However, we don't get contributed to the business $60, right? There's going to be costs associated with every single purchase. There's a cost of goods if you're a physical product. There are shipping and taxes and all of these sorts of things. So for every single product, there are going to be some additional considerations bringing the margin that this person, or the contribution of that this person is worth, down. So this is now the measure of how much contribution this person has provided to our business. So let's say it was $60, and just for rounding easy, let's call this 20. So 60 minus 20 here. So we have our 60 minus our 20 is going to give us $40 contribution to the business. Okay, so where are we sitting? Right now, we've acquired the customer at $75. So it cost us, to good old Zuck, we had to pay $75 to get this customer. They made an order of $65. There was $20 of costs, and so we're left with $40. So this person's lifetime value is actually negative right now, because we haven't even covered the cost of acquiring this customer with the margin or the contribution that this person has provided to the business. So from here, what we can look at is the actual lifetime value of them as time goes on. So as time goes on, and they're placing more orders. So from here, from $40, maybe they place another big order later in time, and it's for another $60. Where we're going to have the same situation happen, where there's $20 of costs associated with the order. So our margin is going to be another $40. So we have our initial $40, we went up 60. So now right here, we're at 100 and then down 20. So sitting pretty. Now we are at a lifetime value of $80. We're at $80, and if we subtract the customer acquisition cost, if we drag that over, really then at the end of the day, we are sitting at $5 of contribution from this person. So really what you would want to do is be able to say that the lifetime value of this person takes into account all of these other considerations of how much the different costs are, what the customer acquisition cost is, and this would give you a true lifetime value based on contribution margin to the business as opposed to just looking at the gross revenue style. So in this case, the customer lifetime value for this hypothetical person who has made 2 orders, wasn't even profitable on the first order, is now $5. So at this point in time, we have a $5 contribution margin, or a $5 lifetime value. Now the problem with this is running this calculation for every single person and considering the time bounds of when their purchases happen. We know that in stores, not everyone buys at the same time. We can't just schedule everyone to say, okay, on April 1st, go and buy, everyone buy, and that's going to make up the entire value of our business for the entire year. Everyone is buying at different days, different times, different months, all of those different considerations. So how do we standardize and actually get a useful value out of trying to look at lifetime value? And the way to do that is by measuring lifetime value based on cohorts. So you have to look at LTV based on cohorts. It's the only way that lifetime value is going to make sense. So again, what that looks like is if we have a table here, and on the column, the first column, we're going to have days, right? So we're going to have days here, and then all of the different numbers and metrics and data that we want to view is going to be aggregated at the daily level. So we're going to be comparing people on a daily basis based on how much time has passed for that cohort of people. So we have our cohort of people 1. Let's just say this is our Jan 1 group here, and we're going to know that they have new customers. So let's say new customers here is going to be, let's just say it's 100 people. Okay, so on Jan 1, we have 100 people that are going to be our new customers. In month 1, so now we're at month 1, we could even say day 0, let's do that, day 0. So day 0, days, now we're in days, so day 0, here we go, we'll get this right eventually, day 0, the value or the average contribution from these people, let's just say is $10,000. Okay, so every single person made a $100 purchase, and that is the value contribution from those people. And in this example, we're not taking into value the considerations for the customer acquisition costs, because that is going to be at an individual person level, and we're not taking into consideration the different values here. So we're just saying that we had this many new customers and they actually just had this much revenue associated with them. However, the real calculation, we'd want to probably split that out. So we have our customers in this cohort. So again, cohort is just a fancy way of saying group. So our group of people on January 1st has this. Now we could have a day 30 number, right? And that is going to be a higher number, and a day 60, 90, 365. We're going to be able to go all the way out to look at the data for each one of these different cohorts over time. So on Jan 1, if this cohort is 30 days old, that value now might be $12,000. So we now have $12,000 of contribution value. That is a 20% increase. So we could say that the difference between day 0 and day 30 is 20%. So just like this, we have 20% increase now between these two numbers. And so kind of a benchmark of what we want to go for is a day 60, or day 90, day 90. Let's go here. Let's put this in. So day 90 benchmark is shoot for a 30% increase. What that means is between day 0 and day 90, a certain portion of your customers are going to reorder based, not for every business, but for the majority of businesses, the benchmark here is that between day 0 and day 90, your customers are going to reorder, and so that total accumulated value for them should be 30% higher after day 90. And then the other benchmark is after day 365. So your 365 day LTV should be 100% increased. Meaning every single customer that bought on that day should have doubled in value. Not every single customer, but the total value from the customers should have doubled by day 365, meaning you're continuing to extract value from your existing customers. So where is this used? How can we use this? Well, if we come back up to this number here, we have a customer acquisition cost. So this red number here, this is telling us a customer acquisition cost. So if we know that our lifetime value after 90 days, for example, our 90-day LTV is 20% higher than the initial value. So if we know that we spent $75 to acquire a customer, and then their initial order was only a $60 order, and their lifetime value over 90 days only goes up by 20%, then really, what's 20% of 60? We know that it's 15, right? So really, we know that this value is really going to go up to 75 over 90 days, meaning that at 90 days, we are break even. So we're not break even on the initial order of only $60, but the continued value over time, and in this case, 90 days, the 90-day LTV went up by 20%. We're now at 75. We're break even. We've just now broken even after 90-day mark. So that can help us set our targets. We can know that, okay, we're willing to go negative on the first order, given that our LTV can handle that and the cash in the business can handle that, because you do have to float that cash, right? If you lost money on the first order, you have to have enough cash to continue to sustain that, to lose money on every single order until you make your money after 90 days. And so then after 90 days, so 90 days and on, all of that money will continue to be profits from the lifetime value of your customers. So what is a way that you can influence LTV? How can you actually influence LTV? And the number one way to influence LTV is going to be your product mix, your product offer. There we go. Beautiful. Your product, your offer, which will comprise of your AOV and margin. If you're selling Peloton, you probably won't have a 20% increase after 90 days, right? People just don't buy 2 Pelotons within 90 days. But if you're a supplement, then that is highly conducive as a business to increasing lifetime value within 90 days and a year, right? So the number one consideration for modifying or influencing your lifetime value is going to be your product mix. So there you have it, folks. There is a rundown of how to use LTV, how it's calculated, some considerations of how it's used, and what you can do to influence LTV in your e-commerce business.